Bubsy 3D visits the James Turrell retrospective. I'm not playing this. Bubsy 3D. The internet hate machine rags on this game all the time, constantly. They go on about how this is the worst game you've ever seen, you've ever looked at, how it's the worst thing you'll ever witness in your entire life. They make it sound like this game killed their family. So as we normally do, let's talk about it. The game was developed by Eidetic, which I think that's how you say it. Eidetic was Michael Berlin's, the Bubsy creator's, studio that he made after Bubsy 1. He is back. After Bubsy 2 and the goddamn horrible Jaguar game came out, they sold horribly. Them selling poorly made Accolade ask the original Bubsy creator to return to the series, which he did, as I previously said. He decided to revitalize the game with the transition to 3D, which was an amazing idea. There really wasn't that many 3D games out at this point. This is even one of the first 3D platformers ever made to enable 3D exploration. However, since this is a one-of-a-kind game, the team had no clue how to do it. They weren't experienced with 3D technology, and I can't blame them. Games weren't really in 3D at the time. This caused heavy challenges in development. And during the game's development, Berlin went to the 1996 Consumer Electronics Show, and he saw Mario 64 at the same event that Bubsy was at, and he went, oh shit. After he saw Mario 64, he realized Bubsy 3D would be the inferior game. He wanted to fix the entire thing, but Accolade insisted on releasing it on time, so the team was rushed to try their best to make the best game they could under these circumstances. I really do wonder what the entire remade game would have been like. Maybe it would have been better. Anyway, the game released on November 25th, 1996, when I was 0 years old. That's terrifying. It released 2 months after Mario 64, to mixed reception. Then years later, the internet tore it to shreds. They destroyed this game. Although one GameSpot reviewer wanted to smash his TV in. What the hell is going on with him? This game also got an award by PlayStation Extreme. It got the Gold X Award. What? Anyway, this begs the question, is Bubsy 3D the worst platformer ever made? Really? Bubsy 3D is a 3D platformer. Wow, who would have guessed? All you have to do in this game is get to the end of the level. But this time, it actually is something else. In the previous Bubsy game, almost every single game was kind of just a maze, but the goal was the same, just get to the end of the level. There wasn't really anything else for you to do in the game. In this game, almost every level has 2 secret rockets you can find around the map. Getting all of these gives you a quote-unquote good ending, which I'll go over at the end. I don't know why I started with that, but let's get into the gameplay. The controls suck ass. Now that's what you would normally hear as a common complaint in this game, which I completely agree with. The controls really aren't that great, but at least the fall damage is gone. We did it! The game uses tank controls, meaning you push forward to move forward and left and right to have Bubsy move his body left or right. You can only move in a direction by holding forward. You can also push backwards to make Bubsy hop backwards, and L1 and R2 to have Bubsy hop side to side, but this is more of an annoyance than anything, because if your back or side is near an edge, he'll just jump off. Though luckily, that might not happen most of the time, because Bubsy can actually grab onto ledges in this, which I'm honestly surprised this game even has. It's in the game so that way if you almost miss a jump, you actually won't miss it, which actually feels good when it happens. This is a plus for the game. I cannot believe I'm giving the game a plus. Though let's take that away. There's a mechanic in this game where sometimes Bubsy won't grab onto the ledge. Bubsy will just do an animation and die. I don't know why this happens. It doesn't even happen all the time. It just happens. Going back to the tank controls for a second, a lot of people hate them, and I can't blame them for hating them. But I honestly think tank controls are fine for platformers. They can use it well, like Croc. I thought Croc used the tank controls well because it's a very linear platformer. Bubsy 3D uses it well sometimes, though a lot of the time it's kind of miserable. What I mean by this is there are some parts in Bubsy 3D that are super linear, making it perfectly fine for this kind of control scheme. I didn't really have an issue with it when these parts happened. But there's a lot of parts in this game where you have to run all over the place and change your camera angle while running around, and it just makes it extremely annoying because it doesn't feel like the controls were made for that. Bubsy also runs too fast. You're not going to be running that fast until the last couple of levels anyway most of the time, so I'm not sure why he can just go so fast. His speed being so fast makes it impossible to control the camera when you're running around. At the start of the game, it was annoying to control as it had a bit of a slide to it at the end of his run as well, if you went too fast. But honestly, I actually got used to it after a while. In fact, I actually got used to all the controls after a while. The only thing that I didn't really get used to is when you have to run super fast and move the camera at the same time. That's still annoying, but like the rest of the controls, I didn't really have that much of an issue with. The only other issues with the controls I've had is when you're controlling Bubsy and there's a super fast moving platform. The platform moves faster than you can control them. It's really annoying. But to summarize, I kinda got used to the controls and they didn't really bother me unless it was under specific circumstances. Don't get me wrong though, the controls aren't great, but you still get used to them after a while, or at least I did. I found I had more of an issue with one other aspect, and that's the camera. This game made me sick playing. The camera made me so nauseous. I think it's because the camera moves so weird, along with the bad frame rate, it just messes my brain up. It's all over the place. For example, if you jump, the camera goes on top of you and shows a shadow under you, which is actually cool and a good way to show the player where they're landing. But the low frame rate and the movement of the camera going on top of you that quickly just makes me feel sick. Especially because, like I said, this is a 3D platformer. So take a guess what you're gonna be doing.
I wonder what it could be.
If you get hit by an enemy as well, the camera like rotates around to show Bubsy's face and then rotates back. That's annoying. It makes me sick. Why does it do that? It does it every single time an enemy hits you, like come on. Going back to jumping though, in every Bubsy game so far, you can jump and then glide. In this one, I don't think you can. You can glide in this game though. If you push the glide button, Bubsy will jump and then glide. But you can't turn yourself into a glide if that makes sense. You can't jump and then glide. You have to push the button to glide and then it'll jump for you and then glide for you, which is bizarre. Though there was only specific instances where you actually have to glide. I didn't use it that much anyway. It's barely a glide in this. It's like a small hop. Though speaking of the enemies, there are enemies in this game. Wow. They shoot stuff at you and if you run into them, they take damage, but you can get rid of them by jumping on them. Well, most of them anyway. Or you can do the other thing, which pretty much gets rid of most of them. There are collectibles around every level called atoms. If you run into them and hold square, you grab onto them. Then you can aim the camera left or right and then shoot it. I hate this. The camera moves incredibly slow, so if the enemy is behind you when you grab it, the atom will explode because guess what? They decided to put a mechanic in the game where if you hold the atom for too long, it explodes. Though luckily, you can take a few hits in this game, unlike the last one, that goddamn Jaguar game. I hated that. So that's good. Like I said, you can use these atoms to take out enemies, or you can find secrets, but I'll go into that later. But if you're gonna be using them to take out enemies, actually don't do that. I would recommend just jump on them if you can. It's just so much easier to do. But let's talk about the visuals of this game, because what a surprise, everyone fucking hates it. There is a reason for this though. Berlin said that the simple colors would make the enemies stand out. And he was actually right. It did work. I can easily tell where the enemies are, as well as the collectibles. The only thing that sucks is the draw distance, because you can't see that far, and some levels will have you see very, very far, and they just won't spawn in until you get close, which is annoying. But because of the simple colors, I think a very, very, very few PlayStation games do this. But this game runs at 480p instead of 240p. Which almost every other PlayStation game was doing. Though again, even though he was passionate about making the game look like this for visual clarity, I think it was a mistake a little bit, because at the time, more people cared immensely about how a game looked.
Holy shit!
This would turn people off, but what is my take on it? For me, well, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I just don't really find it awful. Like, there's nothing special about it. And almost every other PlayStation game looks better, but I wouldn't say this hurts to look at or looks bad. It's just bland. The only levels I didn't like the look of were the last couple of levels because they just kind of look like vomit to me. I didn't really like them, but the rest of the game, it's like, whatever. Though Bubsy himself though, he is a putrid, disgusting rat. I don't like how he looks in this game. He looks better than the last game, that's for sure, but in this game he kind of looks like a toddler. I don't know why, I'm just not a fan of his look. It might be because he's smaller than normal, which is honestly probably why, but it could also be that his voice doesn't really fit in my opinion.
So, you wanna be a video game star? For starters, grab all the items you see. There's plenty of them in each level, and if you get enough of them, you'll be in for some surprises.
Another thing everyone likes to go crazy about is how annoying Bubsy is in this, but I didn't really mind it that much. It didn't really bother me at all. Sure, I preferred the voices 1 and 2 a lot more, and while I don't really like the voice here that much, I wouldn't say it's bad. It's not horrible. It's just not great. With how many videos I saw of this game growing up and how many people were bashing on it and his voice, I thought he was going to be talking every 5 seconds, but he doesn't. He only really talks a lot in level 1, which is the tutorial, and he's telling you how to play. Yeah, sure, he might be a little bit annoying then, but that's only really in the first level. He also does talk about the X-Men a lot for some reason, but it only happened like 5 times in my playthrough. I don't know why he talks about that, but he does. And then later on, he doesn't really talk that much. He might randomly quip and say something stupid, but it's not that annoying. Who cares? You also just turn it off anyway. And also, I don't even think the voice actor is a bad voice actor. The voice actor for this game is great. She was the voice of Rouge in Sonic the Hedgehog back in the day, and in my opinion, had the best voice for her. Why did Sega get rid of her? Anyway, the music in this game, I didn't really mind that much, though it doesn't really fit that well. It sounds like carnival music, or like evil clown music or something. Just take a listen. The sound design, at least in this game, is better than the previous game for sure, as this game has sound effects for when enemies shoot stuff at you, which is a great signal for when you need to dodge. The only sound design aspect I hate in this game is that there's this random marching sound. I think that's what it is, but it only happens when I'm near the woolies, so I have no idea.
Yeah!
It just randomly plays. It's annoying, but that is an overview of the entire game, so now let's play through the game together, because if you couldn't tell, I am super excited to play what is considered the worst game ever made.
Bubsy 3D sent me to the ER.
So let's start with the manual. Bubsy 1 and 2 had an awesome comic in the manual. It really set the tone and the style of the game. Bubsy 3D has nothing, fuck you. You launch the game and get a beautiful CG cutscene of the main villain saying Bubsy landed on the planet and he goes out to ruin the planet. I think this is why people hate the voices in this game. Not because it's bad, it's whatever, but because they say 3 seconds of plot followed by a joke that lasts 5 to 10 seconds. I can barely understand what's happening here. But basically, they need to get rid of Bubsy to be able to continue with their invasion plans, and they actually were able to capture him, but the ship they captured him on crash landed on a planet, and now Bubsy is stranded on that planet, which I assume is the planet they're having a meeting on. They find out Bubsy needs to build a rocket to collect atoms for interdimensional travel. Bubsy then crashes the interview and just says random shit.
I knew I should have taken that left turn at Uranus! Was it something I said? What could possibly go wrong?
I really have no idea what is going on. After that, we get a title screen. Here we can adjust the music, sound effects, controls, and can even turn Bubsy's voice off if you hate it. But after that, we start the game and have a level select, which of course we need to beat the levels in order to get more levels. But I want to talk about the level select cards for a second. Most of them have nothing to do with what's happening in the level. I think it might have more to do with the story, maybe? The second last level has Bubsy in like a black suit with an eye patch. What does that have to do with the level? Nothing like that happens in the level. Anyway, let's start level 1. We get in and Bubsy obviously starts talking immediately. As like I said before, this happens in the tutorial level because this is the tutorial level. Anytime you hit a question mark, he will give you a tip about the game, which is fair honestly. Voice acting to tell you how to play the game. Sure, why not? It's a very small tutorial level, and it works. There's nothing really wrong with this level. It's a very linear, mountainous level. And like I said, because it's linear, it works well with Bubsy's controls. You will see these gray platforms that are floating all over the place, and you see these in almost every single level. They are the main thing that you will be platforming on most of the time. Later on in this level, you get these 2 arrows that are a checkpoint, which is useful. Speaking of arrows though, this game brings back the arrow mechanic where it'll have an arrow pointing to you where you need to go, which will be useful later on as some of the levels become big. But unlike the last Bubsy games, these arrows are actually almost always accurate and tell you exactly where you need to go. I think I only got lost maybe twice in this game. which might not seem like a lot, but that's a huge improvement over the last games. After a bit of standing around, I get this AFK screen, which is actually pretty charming and kind of funny. It's just Bubsy messing with your TV. I think it's pretty cute. Moving on a bit, we find a giant telescope. Running into it shows secrets like rockets you can grab or where to go in the level. That's pretty neat. Near the end of the level, we get some water, which is to show the player, yep, that instantly kills you. But after that, that's pretty much the tutorial level. After we beat the level, we get a CG cutscene of Bubsy getting smashed. These cutscenes are pretty stiff looking, but I found them to be somewhat charming at least. This happens every time you beat a level, and they do kind of start repeating sometimes with slight variations, but I'll go over to them later, don't worry.
I might be the first person to make it to level 2.
Level 2? It's like the tutorial area. It is a mountainous area, but it is much bigger. In fact, it's not linear at all like it was before. It is a lot larger. I believe these levels aren't good. The game works with linearity, not being a massive thing to run around in. My apologies for being a bad YouTuber, but I forgot to mention the enemies in the last level, so I'll do it here, since there isn't really much new. The enemies you see most of the time will be the woolies. If memory serves, there are two kinds that you will mostly see throughout the game. The ones on the ground and the ones that fly around. But they pretty much do the same thing. They just shoot a projectile at you. These are easy to deal with as you can hear when they shoot at you because it's loud as hell, so you know when to avoid it. It becomes more annoying later, but I'll explain why later on. This level does contain a new enemy though. One of the worst ones in the game. It's this electric entity thing. It rapidly moves from one point to another randomly in a line. It does this so fast when you try and jump through the line. You need to pray it decides to not rapidly just spawn on you. However, you can avoid the one here by taking propeller to fly up, grab an invincibility power up, and then just run through them. But they did something annoying. If you touch the propeller, you take damage. Why? To use the propeller, you just need to glide on top of it, which will make Bubsy float. I repeated this level to get the rockets that are hidden around every level, and this made me realize getting in the rockets in this game ruins the enjoyment. I actually think getting the rockets in this game makes this a worse game. You can use atoms to break open some of the walls that are hidden, like this one. Could you even tell this was a secret wall? They all look the same. To get a lot of the rockets in this game, it requires you to blast open a bunch of hidden walls that don't really look that different than the rest of the level. What I'm trying to say is that the rockets are a pain to find. And if I'm being honest,
I did not 100% Bubsy 3D. Might as well throw in the towel.
I'll give more of a reason why near the end of the video, but trust me, it's a goddamn good reason. Anyway, once you beat the level, you get a scene of Bubsy drawing a door, spawning it into reality, and then slams into the wall. Classic. Then the woolies come out and beat the shit out of him. These cutscenes please me. Level 3 is another ice mountain, though this one is filled with water, lots of water, and linear walkways, while also being relatively large at the same time. There isn't much new here, so I figure I should bring this up now. Every time you die, you get a CG cutscene. Fall in the water in the game? CG cutscene. Did you die to the electric enemy? You get shocked. It's pretty charming, but it can get tiring after a while when you get to the harder levels. Once you beat the level, you get a CG cutscene of Bubsy driving some weird ass vehicle into a base, which reveals one of the bosses in level 4, which, no surprise, level 4 is a boss. I'm gonna be honest, I did not think this game had bosses for some reason. You fight the yellow dude you see in the intro, who is on a calculator, I think, and he's firing projectiles at you. When you face him, you will probably do what I do and wonder, what do I do? Take a guess. When he shoots a projectile at you, it gets left on the ground for a bit, and you use that to glide over to him and jump on him. How are you supposed to know that? The human population didn't know updraft existed until Breath of the Wild came out, though it's not really fire in this one. Jokes aside, it's a pretty easy boss. Though it is kind of annoying, that I may have not mentioned yet, is that the gliding sucks. Actually, I think I did mention that. It does not let you fly that far, which leads to annoying moments because you don't get to fly that far, so you might end up slightly in front of him, and you'll just take damage and get knocked off instead. How annoying. You also don't get a CG cutscene when you beat him. Sad. Level 5 is an underwater level. You push X to go up, O to go down, and the D-pad of moving forward. The controls here aren't horrible. You do get used to them, oddly. And even more oddly, the music here has a completely different tone. It's actually very soothing. What the hell? This is like the only time the game doesn't sound like evil clown music. I think these levels would have been fine if they didn't have one major issue. These feel like stealth levels done really badly. There are these sharks and starfish where if you get in their vision, or even somewhere near them, they will bolt at you in Mach speed and you cannot avoid them. So many times I'm just enjoying a nice swim and boom! Shark from behind me, what the hell? This underwater level is pretty open, but you can just follow the arrows and get to the end pretty quickly. These underwater levels do have a time limit, though I found them pretty irrelevant. I beat them before the time limit ran out. If you're getting rockets though, you may need to increase the time limit by collecting oxygen, which just fills up the time limit. But they give you so much time still anyway, I don't think it really matters. Once you beat the level, Bubsy finds a pipe and enters it, slamming against the other end of the pipe, but it sets him free from the water. How did he even get into the water? After I beat this level, I decided to save, and the save slots look like Bubsy is flipping you off 15 times. What the hell? Anyway, on to level 6. Level 6 has a bunch of trees you can climb on, and starts to look a little bit different than the other levels. This level is more of a construction site at the end, or something that looks like one. This level introduces these enemies that shoot big giant lasers at you, though you can dodge them pretty easily still. Then a bit later into the level, it just turns into a bunch of falling platforms you need to jump on over and over and over again. And it runs to an issue a lot of levels later on have as well. Let's say you fall off the platforms. You will have to restart the entire level because you can't die, except into this level, which nicely enough has acid that kills you. I would rather the game just kill me. There are also power-ups in this game, which I don't think I mentioned yet. This one has invisibility, which makes you, well, invisible. Enemies won't go for you while you have it on, but you can still take damage if you run into them. Just to get them out of the way, the other power-up I didn't mention yet that's in this game is invincibility, which lets you run around and instantly kill enemies you run into for 20 seconds. Kind of fun. Another quote-unquote power-up is ammo, which just lets you shoot an atom wherever you want, but that's really it. The ending CG in this level has these cows, I think, being painted, and Bubsy gets covered in the paint in the end. I don't think you actually see these cow things in the game at all. Level 7 is another water level, but it's pretty much the same as the previous one, so there's really not much to say here. It's pretty much the same. The ending CG here is Bubsy coming out of the water on a rubber duck. Doing this gets him surrounded and eaten. I don't think these really relate to the advancement of where Bubsy is at all, because the next level, you're in a factory. How did we get here? Did we swim to the entrance? Anyway, this level is completely full of moving platforms. It's also massive, and if you miss a jump, you don't just die, you fall all the way down and you have to restart the level again. How annoying. I would rather just the game kill me. This level does have a Simon Says minigame where a woolly would change the color of the platform and you just need to follow what the woolly does, and if you do that, you get a rocket ship. Pretty cool. The ending of this level is full ass. You have to walk on these super tight construction panel things, and while jumping from them and walking on them, there are enemies shooting stuff at you, and the platform is so small, you have barely anywhere to dodge. It is annoying. The end CG of this level puts Bubsy in the doohickey. I wonder if the devs just wanted to torture Bubsy as much as they could while playing this or something, because he gets brutalized. At the end of the doohickey, he gets turned into a woolly. Level 9 is yet another water level similar to the others, though this one has a lot of enemies, but it's pretty much the same. The CG scene here has Bubsy open a chest and a bunch of enemies fly out of it. Level 10 introduces these invisible snake enemies that I hate. They move faster than Bubsy, so you can't outrun them. The only way to take care of them is to shoot an atom at them, but sometimes they just won't be near one. This level is again mostly in the air on gray platforms that move around, which is pretty much a standard in a lot of these levels looking back, and in the future really. A lot of the game just has you on the ground and then you climb up these gray platforms and you're just on the gray platforms for the rest of the level. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this level. The CG cutscene here has Bubsy break into a building and find a giant, and I skipped the goddamn cutscene. My body just couldn't control itself. Level 11 is a boss. It is the woolly mammoth, which is a funny play on words. I like that. For this boss, the most dangerous thing about it for me was the edge of the arena itself and not the boss at all. If you get too close to the edge, you'll get hit by the edge of the arena and take damage. It feels like you don't even need to touch it. Just being near it will damage you, which is annoying. Though for the boss itself, you need to wait for him to flip over and jump on him. Later, the audience will throw in bananas, and you can have him slide on the bananas to make him fall over, sometimes. Sometimes, the boss won't fall at all and will just keep on sliding, meaning you can't jump on him and instead need to jump over him. Like I said, all you have to do is wait for him to slip on a banana, wait till he falls over, and then jump on him and you win. Or so I thought. One time the boss slid on a banana, the boss slid out of the arena and just died. Was that intentional? What happened? Level 12 is a city, and it's mostly just a big ass hallway with 100 enemies, which is annoying. Especially because this is a level where you need to keep running and turn the camera a lot, but the camera doesn't turn fast enough for you to do that because the game is not made around it. Plus, this is also one of those levels where if you fall from higher up later on, you need to do the run again. And it's annoying because there's enemies all over the place shooting stuff at you on the run to the end. Plus, this level also introduces these annoying flying enemies. There is no way you can kill these guys. They fly around super fast and stop when they're near just to shoot at you, and then they fly around super fast again. You have to get lucky to be able to jump on them. Starting with this level, the levels become very long. There are 6 levels left, and it feels like they were bigger than the 12 levels before it. Anyway, the end cutscene here is Bubsy getting into an invisible car, but then the car drives off without Bubsy, and then it runs back to him. I always loved this cartoon bit. Level 13 introduces these rockets, which I'm not sure I like. You can get in them and they start moving on their own. If it hits a sign, it breaks and you just fall down, so you need to jump off before that. Jumping between the rockets in some of the levels can be very annoying. They both try and slow down, but that just doesn't work sometimes. It's really finicky. Now look at this. I'm riding on the rocket. I see the platform I need to jump to. I jump to it, and bullshit. The enemy on the ledge shoots me, I fall down, and I have to redo everything. This is also where the levels start to visually look not that great for me. I preferred the color palettes of the starting levels, but this isn't just good anymore. The end CG here has Bubsy participate in a race against a woolly, and Bubsy just slams into a brick wall. Nice. Level 14 is like the other town before, a town you need to run through with a bunch of enemies everywhere. But you do get a new mechanic here. You need to find the switches to free these spiders you can ride on to continue on in this level. It's a nice break from all the chaos of all the enemies trying to blast you. But again, for like the 3rd time I've mentioned, maybe more, the level falls flat because in the end, it's just like a lot of them. You climb up high into the gray platforms and try and get to the end. If you fall down, you need to restart. The MCG for this level is the invisible car one again, but now the woolly just ejects Bubsy and he fucking dies. Level 15 is a level covered in instant death water, and it's mostly a level where you ride the rockets around to find the end. This level also made me realize another issue with the camera. Sometimes it won't be above you in a rocket, like here for example. It won't show you what's under you, leaving to do random jumps and hope that there's a platform under you. For this level, you just need to ride around a lot and jump from coaster to coaster, and you beat the level. The NCG is just the race again, but this time they attached a chain to his car, so Bubsy just gets ejected and smashes against the ground. Why are they brutalizing this guy? Level 16 is full of water like the last one, and it's just full of gray moving platforms, and there's a lot of them. Basically, the level is like this. It is mostly a linear path that you need to get to the end of. At the end of that path, you find a spider you need to free. This mechanical spider takes you to another island to do another platforming level again, and you just repeat that a bunch of times and the level is done. The ending CG here is the invisible car yet again, but this time, Bubsy kills the woolly. Level 17 is the same premise like the last level, with more rocket jumping back and forth, and it's annoying as hell, what a surprise. I don't know what it is, but trying to jump from rocket to rocket is just brutal in this level. It just barely functioned for me. I have no idea why. This is worse than the other rocket levels. The NCG here is the race again. They just keep repeating the same CG cutscenes. Though in this one, he wins the race and slams into the final level. Look at this loading card. What the fuck is happening to him? This level is weird. It has these new enemies that I have no idea what they even are, but there are just so many of them. It's super hard to run through it without getting hit. I go forward and hit a switch and it just makes a question mark appear. Like, what? What does that do? Move on ahead and you get to a boss, this giant woolly. You just need to jump on him 3 times. The raindrops basically fall from the sky twice, once on the ground, once on the platforms above, and you just need to dodge accordingly. Once you jump on him 3 times, the doors open. More level appears for you to do. There's these moving walls that if you touch them, they send you back for some reason. After we get past them, we get to a room with 4 switches, and super fast, tiny woolies you can't avoid. They run so much faster than you. You just need to pray they don't hit you. You need to hit the switches in the correct order here. How you figured this out? I don't know. I just brute forced it by figuring out which ones turn off after you hit them, so you can kind of find out which ones you need to hit in what order. Once you do it correctly, a teleporter opens, which brings you to the final boss. The final boss are these two woolies constantly shooting at you, and you need to avoid them. I hit a switch to open up a box that contains an atom, which you need to shoot at one of them. The issue is that when you're holding the atom, they're still shooting at you. So when you aim and shoot the atom at them finally, you immediately take damage most of the time. Bullshit. This is completely luck-based. You just need to pray that one's not shooting at you when you let go of that atom. You can try and time it if you want, but it's really hard to do. It basically kind of feels like luck. But if you do get lucky, it's best to just focus on one of them, because once you take one down, the other one's by himself, and I found it way easier to fight one rather than two. Once they're both down, you beat the game. You get an ending where I can barely understand what happens. They do this shitty joke every 3 seconds like I do in these videos.
Wait a minute.
But this is the in-game joke they do.
Capacity he'd built up in his fur.
Now pay attention! This is important information! Please, Professor, continue.
Thank you, General. As I was saying, using the stored atom capacity he built up in his fur.
Why are they laughing? Anyway, I'll try my best to explain what happened. We find out that by using the atoms that Bubsy found, the guy is trying to explain it like 3 times, and every time he says that, the audience just laughs. Why are they laughing at this? I don't get it. Anyway, after they're done doing that, he gets enough atoms, and because of this, he was able to escape and build a rocket. Though, he couldn't build a complete rocket, because we didn't 100% the game. Because of this, Bubsy can't make it back to Earth, and gets stranded on a planet, and the Woolies can now invade Earth. The game ends immediately, back to the title screen. How exciting. That is considered the bad end. Do you want to know what happens if you suffer through the atrocity of getting every single rocket in this game? The exact same cutscene plays out, but instead of Bubsy being stranded, Bubsy now has too many atoms. He rips open the space-time continuum, making it so he gets sent so far back in time, no one knows where he is. He basically fucking dies, and that is considered the good ending. The Woolies invade anyway. What? Imagine you spend many hours trying to find these stupid ass hidden rockets around the map just to get an ending that makes the main character stranded. The main character gets lost in time. He gets more punished for 100%ing the game. That is a massive fuck you, one of the biggest I've ever seen. The only thing I can think of is maybe they were planning a sequel to something where he's back in time. I think that might be it. I have no idea. And that's the end of the game. What a game that was. Now, what do I think about it? Do I hate this like everyone else does? Do I want to be a contrarian? Yeah, fuck it, let's do it. I'm gonna be completely honest. For the longest time, everyone has said this is one of the worst 3D platformers ever made. One of the worst games ever made. And I just don't really see it. Maybe it's all the negativity that I heard going into this game before I played it. Maybe I expected it to be worse. Like, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The game is not great. It is not good. But the worst thing ever? I don't know. The controls of Bubsy, you kind of get used to. The only thing that I hate that I never got used to was the horrible camera. And even though I said the controls you get used to, they're still not that great. Like, I wish it was better. But tank controls can work on a platformer like it did for Croc. The only levels I actually hated playing were any of the levels that decided to become big. Though most of these levels just ended up turning into a precise platformer above the level itself anyway, which is another complaint I have. This game goes from a somewhat colorful game to just gray platforms in the air. It's not disgusting, but it's just boring. I didn't mind how the game looked. Like I said about the gray platforms. Yes, it's super simple and almost every other PlayStation game looks better, but it doesn't hurt to look at. Like, it's just boring. Dare I even say it has a style. Bubsy himself, I don't like the design of, sure, he's too childish, but his voice didn't really bug me that much. I didn't even hear his voice that much. I thought he would have way more voice lines, but it just didn't, it wasn't that much. Maybe I'm fucking nuts. Maybe I've lost my goddamn mind, but I really don't think this is the worst platformer ever made. I don't even think this is the worst Bubsy game ever made. That goes to that Jaguar game I did before. You want to see a bad game, asshole? Go watch that video or play that game yourself. You will be fucking wishing you were playing Bubsy 3D after playing that dog shit. Though, I can't blame people for hating this game because it's Bubsy 3D. It's not good. And I mean, like, it's just a person's opinion. Who cares? This game isn't that great for sure. But worst thing ever? I don't know. But something terrifying has happened. Something horrifying. Something I couldn't believe. Years later, in the year 2025, they released Bubsy 3D again. Why did you do that? They released Bubsy 3D in a collection. This collection features the original 3D Bubsy game, as well as a revamped version. The revamped version, from what I could tell, adds stuff like an Xbox controller to the controls menu, which I guess makes it more modern, which is cool, as well as giving you widescreen, which is neat. I didn't go too deep into this to see what else they did, but they did do one major thing. They completely changed how the game plays. You can now move the camera in any direction. You can now also just move in any direction. No more tank controls. They fixed the game. It's good now. Not really. Honestly, controlling Bubsy in this version kind of feels a bit worse. Like, don't get me wrong, the free control camera, awesome. I love that. Being able to run around as Bubsy, that's awesome. I love that. Nothing wrong with that. The issue is controlling him in the air. I don't know what they did. It just feels off. Like, it feels like the Jaguar version of Bubsy 2, where it feels like when you jump, you're moving on ice in the air. It's very slippery to jump around, and when you jump up as Bubsy, he floats on the peak of his jump for a couple seconds and then comes down. It is very off-putting. But they did attempt to fix it. They did attempt to fix the camera and the movement, which they did. It's just the air controls. It's just not great, but that's about it. I'm sick of talking about this guy.